My name is Zhenyi, and today my team and I will be delving into our chosen company, Wells Fargo. We will be exploring more about the current climate of the company, followed by analyzing and providing our solutions to change their organizational behavior. To kickstart the presentation, let us first look at the company's background. Wells Fargo is the fourth largest bank in the US that provides a wide range of financial services. However, despite Wells Fargo being such a well-known and seemingly successful bank, there have been many instances where they were brought in scandals and mistreated their workers. Today, we will be focusing on two pertinent issues occurring in Wells Fargo. Firstly, will be their toxic company culture, which focuses on Wells Fargo's performance culture due to unethical practices. Second, will be their positional and coercive power abuse, which mainly revolves around their leadership style and mistreatment of workers by the superiors. Firstly, we'll be looking at Wells Fargo's toxic company performance culture. Earlier this year, Wells Fargo agreed to a $3 billion settlement, which includes the bank admitting to opening millions of fake accounts. From 2002 to 2017, Wells Fargo pressured their employees to meet unrealistic sales targets. This practice and culture pushed thousands of employees to create accounts under false pretenses and without consent from their customers. Up to today, the bank is still paying the price for its history of scandals in the form of customer refunds and legal settlements. In a separate case recently during the pandemic, Wells Fargo employees were caught making false representations in applying for loans specifically catered for small businesses that needed the funds urgently to tide through the pandemic. This goes to show that Wells Fargo's toxic company culture is still far from being resolved. Next up, under Wells Fargo's positional power abuse, other Wells Fargo's executives pressuring their workers to aggressively cross-sell products to meet sales quotas, the company has also been accused of retaliating against whistleblowers. Many of them who reported the management's unethical practices were later found to be fired after their report. In addition, managers made employees work overtime without extra compensation if they did not manage to hit their sales targets within a day. All in all, the management's laissez-faire leadership style has resulted in the various problems followed by their poor crisis management. And now, I'll pass on the time to Xiaopei, who will further analyze the above-mentioned problems.
Thank you, Brendan. One of the reasons why Wells Fargo is in its hot mess now is due to the abuse of positional power by their top management. Positional power is based on an individual's organizational position. At Wells, the top management has the capacity to set unrealistic sales goals for its employees, instructing them to act in accordance with their wishes and conduct unethical sales activities. Employees were thus forced to give in and open unauthorized accounts, given that they're dependent on their managers for not getting terminated and for positive performance evaluations. Wells Media uses two types of power in their leadership, coercive and reward power. Coercive power complies from fear of negative results. It is the ability to apply punishment. Employees are threatened with the consequence of not meeting their sales goals, which is termination. Other power will be reward power. Reward power complies to the desire of positive benefits. It is spread across the company that the better they did at sales, the more they were advanced, and an entire generation of managers got rewarded for doing that, thus encouraging them to conduct more ethical sales activities. With power, leaders at Wells have the ability to exercise influence. Wells mainly use hard influence tactics, pressure, and exchange. Pressure is used by managers to demand compliance through intimidation and threatening of termination. If employees speak up against them, managers will retaliate and find ways to fire them, such as being excessive tardiness or even accusing them for falsifying documents. By pressuring employees, Wells got to prevent whistleblowers and keep the fraud under wraps. Another tactic will be exchange. Exchange is the act of making explicit or implied promises and trading favors. Wells used exchange to reward employees who meet sales targets, creating a negative culture of silence, which encourages employees to continue cheating the system to receive benefits like bonuses and promotion. The abuse of power by the leaders resulted in an oppressive and unfriendly environment for employees. Together with the management's intentional negligence and oversight, it has given rise to toxic workplace culture, which Tong Chen now will now talk more about.
I'll now be analyzing the workplace culture at Wells Fargo. Firstly, what is an organizational culture? There are three levels of an organizational culture, namely artifacts, espoused values, and basic assumptions. Artifacts are observable products of a culture. It could be physical structures, languages, rituals and ceremonies, or stories and legends. In Wells, we can decipher the culture through stories and rituals. Stories of how employees suffer immense pressure to meet sales targets are signs to newcomers and potential employees the stressful environment Wells is. Rituals like morning huddle meetings to discuss sales goals for the day and how a manager will check on employees' progress are telltale signs to new employees what type of unforgiving culture Wells had. Next, espoused values are the company's declared set of values and norms. Values affect how members interact and represent the organization. Wells has 5 core values: what's right for customers, people as a competitive advantage, ethics, diversity and inclusion, and leadership. Lastly, assumptions are the beliefs and behaviors so deeply embedded that they can sometimes go unnoticed. The general attitude at Wells was, do what you have to do, but don't get caught. Wells' upper management didn't see anything wrong with the culture and was solely driven by sales quota. Individual leaders at Wells did not internalize and uphold the espoused values. The failures at Wells illustrate when espoused values don't align with basic assumptions, trouble arises. Next, we'll be talking about the models of culture. As seen, there are 4 models of culture. Wells culture is more inclined towards control and performance. Control culture emphasizes on compliance to hierarchy, built upon rules and regulations set by the leaders. Wells has a requirement for employees to sell a certain number of sales each day, and will not hear any complaints about how unachievable the targets were. Performance culture is described as a very competitive environment with a very result-oriented leader. Wells' ex-CEO, John Stumpf, was only concerned with sales. This mindset drives the performance culture. In order to meet a high sales target, employees are harassed to break the law and imposing a lot of pressure on employees.
To tackle the above issues Wells Fargo is currently facing, our group has proposed a few solutions. Pertaining to the toxic company culture, Wells could revamp its cutthroat goal-chasing culture to the use of management by objectives. MBO is a strategic management model that clearly defines objectives that are agreed to by both the management and employees. First, Wells should revise its organizational objectives. Second, discussions with employees to work on their own personal objectives should be carried out. Third, progress of employees would be monitored. Lastly, employees would receive feedback, appraisal, and evaluation accordingly. Anonymous feedback channels can also help identify the most important underlying and potentially uglier problems, putting a stop to unethical practices. What can Wells gain from this? A productivity culture would be promoted, increasing employees' job satisfaction. With a more friendly and humane job scope, Wells can move from a control-oriented process to a flexible process. Next, Wells Fargo can leverage on increasing employees' motivation. This translates to better organizational performance, better organizational citizenship behaviors, and greater levels of job satisfaction. So how can Wells go about doing this? A combination of employee promotion and recognition can be enforced. Employee promotion can come in hard and soft advancement. This involves an increase in salary, responsibilities, and status. Based on merit, employees are acknowledged, which increases their overall fulfillment. Employee recognition is the acknowledgement of employee for exemplary performance. Imagine managers bring fresh donuts to celebrate the team for exceeding goals. A star employee receiving a standing ovation in front of their peers when receiving their first gold-plated Employee of the Month award. Hence, employees are now happier, cultivating a culture of self-improvement through incentivized learning. As competitive culture is reduced, overall workplace climate at Wells is improved.
Moving on, Wells could try exercising referent power instead. Coercive power is the current practice being used in Wells, which sadly creates a hostile culture of blame. Referent power, however, involves the notion of leading by example and does not require the constant usage of harsh criticism. With less hostility from upper management, this leads to increased job satisfaction and a consequent improvement of the current abusive culture at Wells. This can be complemented with the usage of informal group leaders too. This focuses on sieving out potential employees that currently possess referent power over their peers. This will be especially beneficial since most employees generally look up to these people and may follow suit better with information provided by them. By selecting these individuals as a means to convey instructions, upper management may not necessarily need to monitor every single employee as much as before. If I was an employee, such would be great news because this can be viewed as better trust in my work from upper management. This not only creates a less stressful environment to work in, but also frees up more time for upper management to handle other crucial matters, such as the restructuring of goals for Wells Fargo. Moving on, holacracy can be adopted as well. Holacracy is a system of self-management that promotes decentralization and equal distribution of autonomy in decision-making. As opposed to hierarchies found in most companies, holacracy involves the usage of a flat organizational structure. This can benefit in 2 ways, with the first regarding organizational transparency. Unlike in traditional firms where departments are fixed, holacracy enables teams to come and go as particular units as and when employees perceive change in their organization. This means that responsibilities are constantly revised, with employees being required to update their set of rules and practices adopted from time to time. This fosters more checks and balances, essentially creating a self-sustaining culture that shuns away from bad business practices. Lastly, holacracy can help to improve the power abuse situation at Wells too. With holacracy, much of the power and autonomy is therefore placed in the hands of its employees. This power transfer means that less coercive power will be exercised on each of the staff. Such is especially beneficial since employees will now be given better opportunities to exercise their concerns without fear of upper management. This exchange of feedback not only addresses the issue regarding the abuse of power, but also enables Wells Fargo to remain more flexible to adapt to the needs of the 21st century market.
So now I'll be talking about the feasibility of our solutions. So why will these solutions work at Wells Fargo? Revamping the company culture is the first step for Wells Fargo. The major issues within the company arise from employees cheating to meet ambitious goals. However, it is important to note the cause of such issues. Employees are vital to a banking firm, as banking is a service sector. As a result, unmotivated and distressed employees would mean poor service. In order to tackle this, our first solution is employee-centric. This means that our solution focuses on how to improve the company culture for employees. Citi, a successful global bank known for its culture based on ethics, focuses on building positive customer relationships. By transforming from a goal-chasing culture to one that holds the highest standards of ethics and professionalism, Wells Fargo can encourage a positive performance culture while rebuilding customer confidence after the history of scandals. To do so, Wells Fargo can use management by objectives with a focus on tangible, verifiable goals to transform its culture and prevent such scandals from happening again. As I mentioned previously, employees are vital to the banking sector. So our second solution focuses on how to improve employee motivation. We believe that acknowledging the employees must be done by more than just monetary rewards and instead focus on soft advancements. According to the two-factor theory of motivation, companies must focus on intrinsic reward factors such as promotions, recognitions, and achievements. We believe such monetary rewards will not just intrinsically motivate employees, but will also be supported by the upper management as it can be done without the need to increase any costs. Our final solution is the implementation of holacracy. This can be more of a long-term solution. It isn't easy going from a company with a hierarchy-oriented structure which focuses on coercive and reward power to a self-management system that promotes decentralization. It takes time for employees to get used to the empowerment given to them. However, we feel it is an essential step for Wells Fargo to undertake in order to reattain their reputation as a well-established bank. In terms of feasibility, major companies like Zappos have successfully adopted holacracy as its business management model. Yet, simply adopting holacracy isn't enough. Wells Fargo will need to focus on tackling the excessive bureaucracy that arises with holacracy. For example, they can focus on informal leaders who possess referent power and can influence employees without the direct involvement of the upper management. This will essentially transfer the power from a coercive to a referent power base and reduce the issue of power abuse within the company. These solutions are feasible because it is employee-centric and tackles the issue of power abuse by the upper management in Wells Fargo.
Now, allow me to sum up the situation at Wells Fargo and our thoughts on this. In short, Wells Fargo faces two daunting challenges currently: having a toxic company culture, of unethical banking practices, and power abuse from top management. In order to tackle these issues, we feel that Wells Fargo should approach their crisis on three levels. Firstly, individuals. As employees of Wells Fargo, they are walking embodiments of the organization's culture and values. Our proposed ideas of recognition rituals and utilizing referent power empower employees by allowing them to make their own decisions after looking at examples set by leaders, who also need to credit employees' achievements positively. These increase employees' job security as they are acknowledged for their efforts, thus achieving up to the second level of the motivational needs on the Maslow's hierarchy of needs. Moving up will be the employees' motivations for a sense of belonging. Hence, Wells Fargo will also need to empower and manage teams within the organization. By adopting our proposed solution of holacracy, it allows Wells Fargo to organize teams who set individual targets and goals for themselves. These establish greater sense of belonging for employees towards Wells Fargo via a common goal and identity that they can relate upon, while enabling employees to have a say in the decision-making process, recognizing their status within Wells Fargo. Lastly, Wells Fargo needs to cultivate a positive performance culture on the organizational level by introducing progressive reward systems instead of their current incentive distribution, and administer rewards to employees that establish positive customer relationships. Employees at Wells Fargo will then work to the challenge of the constant development in customer service attitudes and build trust with customers and Wells Fargo. To end off, Wells Fargo need to regain the trust that they have lost with their customers. And to do so, the constant motivation of their employee is the key to unlock their current dilemma. Thank you.